Freiberg, I call my public defender over. I'm like, maybe I could get some of that Christmas, cheer. Like, judge seems to be giving out over there. So he goes in, they break for lunch, and he goes inside, and he comes out, and he's like, this is your lucky day. I'm like, did he read the letter? He's like, no, he didn't read the letter. He's like, he's going to reinstate you on probation. He's going to give you 90 days to get back in line with probation. Sounds great. Wow, right? To the normal person. The person not suffering from the disease of addiction. Sounds perfectly normal. And to me, I was elated. And those doors opened, and I put my old clothes back on, and I waited, come up, because I was in there for a little while. And I will never forget it. It was the week before Christmas. And I walk out that door, and the cold air hit me. And before I walk out that cold door, I'm in the box with some other guys. Some other guys are going back to the block. The weight's up. We're going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go get my daughters, and I'm going to show, all that talk that goes on in there. And then that air hit me, and I was the biggest piece of crap again. It was Christmas. I hadn't talked to my daughters. Had zero money. No cell phone to call anyone. And there's a little chapel up at St. Joe's that I had gone to a lot. You put $12.25 in for anyone. It's a little private chapel that's on the St. Joe's campus. And it's just a private little, the Catholics use it for an adoration chapel. I use it as a place to just go and get quiet and read and do what I do. I still do it. I'd been kicked out of that school when I was younger. There was all sorts of, I had a lot of history with that school. I go in and I sit down, and there's also a phone in there, like a regular old house phone we don't have anymore. And I remembered that. And I'd gone in there when we got divorced, when my wife left, when all those things had happened, I'd always go in. It was just a safe place for me. It was a safe place where it wasn't in the public. I didn't have to talk to anyone, and I could just go in and cry. Most of the time back then it was crying. And now I look back at those times, and it was just God keeping me close.
Amen.
He does that, and you don't see it until later on. And we, whatever you want to look at it, I want to feel it right there. And that's not the way that or the experience I've had with my God. That's not the way he works. We can get into discussions about that. I have a full understanding now why he doesn't do that. Because like I said in the opening statement, if I was in control or in charge, I wouldn't be here. So we get to, I call my sister. My sister comes and picks me up. And I go back to her house this weekend. And I got drunker than I've ever gotten drunk before. I had no, I'm designed that way. I'm designed that way. I don't want to feel, I can't look you in the eye. Even though everyone in the room is there and is supportive and knows my deal, everyone knows the deal. But I just can't do it. But I drink a whole bottle of gin that night, and a bunch of Lady Gaga on Christmas Eve at my sister's house. They're all in bed. Surreal stuff. I wake up shaking the next morning. Shaking. Which never really happened too much for me. I was shaking. And that weekend comes and goes. And, now my brother-in-law's mother was there. And all this stuff comes out of prayers. The prayers that people were just praying for me. And I woke up that morning and drank, just to get the shakes off. And Monday morning comes around, and I called the probation officer. I drank over the weekend. I didn't eat things, but I drank. And I really need to get into some of that, because it's back again. And I can't. I just can't. So she says, and what I know now about it, again, God's grace. Just dropping into he's just dumping it in my lap right now. But again, I'm not feeling it, But looking back now, the grace, he just opened it up, and it's like the full dumping on me. And if anyone's ever tried to get anyone into treatment the week between Christmas and New Year's, you're not doing it. It's not happening, especially for someone that doesn't have insurance. And so I would go to the NA meeting in the morning, and I would try to make it till 7 in the morning. I would try to make it till, and I just remember watching Dog the Bounty Hunter. Joel Osteen, who I am not a big fan of. Nothing against them. I just, if I'm reading the book, I'm reading the book. Not a couple famous bumper stickers that I see. Just my opinion. I got to be connected to the power. And I didn't quite know how to connect yet. And so kid comes up to me at the end of the meeting, gives me a ride home that night. He says, I'm actually graduating a program in Trenton. And he had some issues. His wife had left him while he was in there. He didn't have kids, but his wife had left. Just things had happened, but he was still clean and sober. He had a prison bid hanging over his head. He completed this program. He was graduating the very next week. He says, I'll get you in. Now, had I known anything about the Salvation Army and Trenton at that point, there was no way I would have gone. But again, God gives us what we need. He shows us just what we need at the given. He says, you got to call. They're going to tell you no the first time, and you call back again the next day. You got to come in with a clean urine. Those are some things I could probably do. And I did, and like I always do, I opened my home. I thank God for about 7 seconds. I read for about 3 seconds. But again, I look back at that time and I would beat myself up because I couldn't read. And the gratitude I have today is because that's all I wanted. 3 seconds, 7 seconds, there's no time measurement there. My belief is that because I was willing to do that, somehow, some way, I found myself at the Salvation Army Trenton on a black leather couch that next week. And I get there, and the black leather couch is significant because it's where it's 90 men in there going to work. God, not just God, Christ, heavy. Chapel downstairs, heavy church. You think what talking in tongues was heavy there? You guys ain't got nothing on what goes on in that place. Round the clock. Whether it's honest or not, it's going on. And then there's a chapel upstairs where we all live. And it's just scripture and God and AA. And we get up and we have to go to work for $6 a week. And we have to hang stinky, sweaty clothes. Humongous warehouse. And if you're lucky and you can work your way up the pecking order, you get to get on a truck and get out into the world. Once you're there for a couple months, you can go and pick up donations, put them on the truck, and then go back to your house. You know, and that was the way. And I did that for 3 months. I did that for 3 months, and I did the same thing that I had always done. You know, I had done the first 3 steps. I had admitted, I'd known I was powerless, my life was unmanageable, step 2, and that step 3 part, turning my will and life over to the care of God as I understood it. Again, I would look at that as I had to use my willpower. I had to use something to turn my will over, and I just couldn't get that yet. And my ex-wife was supposed to come up with my kids, and another victim circumstance set up for me where she didn't show up. And so I decided to take my first day pass and go out and do what I do. The miracle in that happened is when I went out into Trenton that weekend and did what I did. You can't come back to the Salvation Army. Those doors lock at night. You can only come in there if you're clean. And they knew I wasn't from Trenton. And they let me back in. And they said, if you could give me a clean urine, we'll let you in. And I had someone come in and try to fake the urine for me. And I dipped the cup, and then Miss Major came out and felt that it was cold, and she's like, John, I'm crying, and she's like, I'm going to give you another chance. You have to go home for a couple of days and come back when you give me a clean urine, and I'll let you back in. And I did that. I went home, and I came back, and it was different. I completely surrendered to everything that I never thought or known. I had surrendered to the process of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I share that today because we go through this all the time. I cannot come up to someone suffering from the disease of addiction and jam this book up their rear end and hope the pages wear off. I don't know why it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work. For me and a lot of the people suffering from substance use disorder that I experienced, and anyone that's ever experienced someone like that, it just doesn't work that way. I have different belief systems on that. I have different ideas and theories. I don't know if they're right, but I believe God just wants a little bit of willingness. I'm forcing this on someone, and I have tried it. Believe me, I have tried it with people that I love very closely. I tried it in the last year. It just doesn't work. We have to have a little bit of willingness. And that's what those steps are. That's what the original fundamental steps are that I follow of Alcoholics Anonymous. And when you submit to those steps, and you can start to write down on a 4-step, take a look at, what it is, the resentments, the anger, and the harms that I did. Why am I doing these things? I'm doing these things so I can address it. It's like managing a checkbook in your head. You ever try to do that? Never works. When you put it on paper, you can see it. The process is for someone that is designed to go in their head and then go off and kill themselves. So in that 4-step, when I'm looking at these things, I'm setting it up for a 5th step where I'm going to sit down across from another man and say, this is where I'm wrong. And this is what I've done, and this is what makes me tick. And this is why I hate my father. And this is why I hate the person that abused me. And this is why, and I can just get it off my chest. And he sits down across from me and says, those same things happen to me. So now that isolation and that fear that very, very closely almost killed me, it's gone. And to bring it to current date, the reason why I believe we lose so many people is because then if you can get them to that point, then they stop. And we're only at a 5th step, and we got 7 more to go. So, what we get into in 6 and 7 is now addressing the defects of character, of why I'm designed that way. And the things, why is it a defective character? These instincts are given to us. They're God-given instincts. Anger, sex, they're all God-given instincts. For people like us, we go way off the deep end with them. Sex becomes a defective character when I'm having sex outside of my marriage, or when I'm having sex with your wife, or when I'm having, that's when it's wrong. Anger is a defective character when I'm driving, even today, and the little old lady comes up the parkway, right? Why are you laughing? And gets in front of me, and as she's getting in front of me, she gives me the finger. As I'm listening to Third Day, and all is right in the world, and everything is good, and here she is giving me the finger. Now I'm angry. Okay, it's normal, right? It's not normal to follow her past my exit and into her neighborhood. Not normal. But this is the way I'm designed. And in step 6 and 7, I'm going to seek and humbly ask him to remove my shortcomings. And not for me, not for my benefit. Why am I going to ask for these things? It says it right in our literature. I'm going to ask for these things so that I can be of maximum usefulness, not to me, but to you and to my fellows that are suffering. The disease that I suffer from is a selfish, self-centered disease. And it's not so much that I want to come and take your pen from you. I just think of me on top of me, on top of me, and I don't mean to. The world judges me by my actions, and I judge me by my motives. If you know any of us, you'll see that when you know them, they're probably the most giving people in the world. They will give you the shirt off their back until it comes to one thing. You're not going to get that. They'll probably take it from you. So if selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my problem and I suffer from all the delusions, what's the only way I can combat that? To do selfless things. Who is the only person in this world that came into this world and did selfless things? It's kind of simple to us. Take that out in the world and you look at what's happening. You look at what's happening. And the other little caveat I like to throw in there, he didn't come into this world to go help the rich and the kings and all those other things. Who did he come in there to help? Who did he go to? Who was his people? A lot of similarities. You know what I mean? Coincidences? I don't know. So I'm in court, the judge puts me on there, I'm drinking, I'm off, I'm in the Salvation Army, I'm going through this process, and we get to a step 8. And what's going on is I'm experiencing some sort of relief. I'm going through the Septuagint translation of this, because I need to know truth. I'm like, really, that's what I'm addicted to now. And it's falling in line with the step process and the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I really am digging it. And why I'm digging it so much is because I'm experiencing like the same sense of ease and comfort I got from that substance that I really ruined my life for. You know? So now I'm in the chapel every night for probably 45 minutes, crying, you know, going through things, you know, thinking that, and then you get into the scripture part. Oh, it says I'm supposed to have my wife back, so I'm going to get my wife back. And you know what I mean? And I'm going to go call her on the phone every day, and she's going to hang up on me. You know, and again, but this was part of the journey. I'm sharing that with you because then it was okay to go through that journey. And I had to experience pain, and I had to experience all this stuff as she's dating doctors when I'm in the Salvation Army. She's on her journey now. So as we come through this, we go up to an 8th and a 9th step, and I have to look at my amends. I have to first make the list of all the things that I've done. You know, and amend means to make right. It's not I'm sorry. I said I'm sorry enough. You know, if I come home drunk and you're my neighbor and I drive over your mailbox, I don't owe you an I'm sorry. I owe you a new mailbox. And why do I start to do this stuff? Because I have to seek the power. Well, God makes the rules, I don't. And something happens, and you find that you're not shameful anymore. You find forgiveness in you and others. When you can stand across from someone and say, I'm wrong, and how do I make it right? You know, we get into step 10, 11, and 12. You know, and there's prayers that go along with this. And if you double it up with this, it says 75% success rate in the 1930s and 40s when this program came out. Why was it so successful? Because they did this stuff. Our minds go at 100 million miles a minute, and it doesn't stop. How do I stop it? I keep busy in the same direction.
Amen.
So I go through this process, and step 10 is owning your stuff on a daily basis. You know, if me and Pastor Strino are seeing things from a different view, and I call him a big jerk in that moment, that day, and then I leave because I'm right. The justified anger piece is big with me. I love justified anger, but I don't have that privilege anymore. And I know I'm right, but you know what? I go through the whole day knowing I'm right. Right? I'm right. And this is good in relationships too. I'm right. I gotta be right. And then my sponsor hits me with this. You know the person that wins at the end of the day? The person that ends their day the least disturbed. I was disturbed that whole day. So how do I end that? I gotta go to Pastor Strino and say, well, make it right. And that's just in the 24-hour process. Step 11 is like my favorite step. Because when I get to do it in our busy days and sought through prayer and meditation, the conscious contact with my Creator. When you get busy, when you're raising 3 little girls, there's not a whole lot of time to be kind of floating around with Christ all day like, oh, wow, this is great. You're busy. You know, it's busy. It's a busy life. So seeking that peace in those moments, and you know, I work these steps today, not to stay clean and sober. That's already done. That's the recovery ED part. I work the steps today to keep in conscious contact with the power of that Creator that gives it to me on a daily basis, that gives me that grace book. And then the most important, step 12, you know, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, try to carry the message. And then I try to practice these principles in all my affairs. There's 3 parts to that last step. So I have now one primary purpose, that when I see that person that comes across that was suffering from the same thing, I got to reach my hand out.
Yes, amen.
Otherwise, the rest of the stuff doesn't happen. You know, and then I have to, I try to carry the message. I'm trying to bring a message to you guys this morning. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's why I pray before I do it. You know, the last piece, you know, of the whole thing, and then trying to practice these principles. You know, when my 5-year-old throws the iPad at me, I'm not so spiritual. You know, and then I whack her on the rear end, and I feel terrible. So we go through this whole process, and my life today is beyond anything I could imagine. And not because of any material thing I have, not because of any relationship I have, because I know how to seek that peace when I want to and when I need it. The fact that the prosecutor has me helping him sort out the addicts from the dealers. The governor had me at State of the State, this year, in front of the whole state. My ex-wife last October overdosed, and had gotten to a point in my journey where I was a dad and had my daughters every other weekend. Fought hard to even get that. Paying my child support through that process when I was an intern back in school. I had to borrow $20 to drive across the state every weekend for my mom to just drive back. And I cried my eyes out every time I dropped them off. And I knew she had started back on her journey. And when you're an intern and you're not making anything, and she appears on the outside to be dating all these rich, fancy guys, that you got to do one thing. What's the answer? And it doesn't feel good in that moment. It's like, God, why are you doing? Why is this going on? Those are my prayers. And so you come back, and I get to call last year, and I had really gotten to grips with just becoming emotionally detached from her. Paying the child support, and then coming and helping her out with groceries beyond the child support. And she overdosed, and I went into court, and I was put into full custody of my girl. I'm walking out of the courtroom, and I just started to date a girl for the first time in my life that I really liked. And she was crying. She had no rights left to the kids, and I walked over to her, and I said, why don't we go sit down and talk? The girl that I was dating, was like a good girl, pumping me up, Christian girl, and was like, listen, I want to, you're going to get them. I'm like, I'm not going to get them, and she's pumping me up with my partner. And then I call her the next day, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to tell you this, but I'm about to start going to my wife. Just to take care of my daughters, so that my daughters didn't do this. And bring her back into my life, I help her clean up everything for a couple months. And then she decided that it wasn't for her, and looked my daughters right in the eye and left. And the reason I share that with you today is because, again, it's not all lollipops and unicorns. That one stung more than it did the first time, because I had all the hopes. I believe. Man, you have to turn it over. Like, I don't have control of this. And they suck up not eating for a couple more weeks, and get back on the porch and raise these 3 little girls. They have a very good life because of the life I was given. I have them. They're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? They get to stay with me. I get to raise them. And so this is the process. And all of it, whether it was back then or right now, it's the same thing. When my eyes are vertical and not horizontal, it's almost like you're bulletproof. There's nothing that can touch you, and that's the promise that you let off. So, and then we work with the prosecutor's office, and probably over 400 people this year so far, since January, are in long-term recovery and headed towards some sort of treatment form of the process. So you got both there. So there is an answer. We're starting an alpha program, family program on, I think, Thursday nights coming up in the next couple weeks, where family members can just come and help get answers and try to sort through the pile, because everyone's pile is different. So we got to go through the pile together and figure it out. So I hope I didn't take up too much of your time this morning. I am very grateful to be here today. Very, very grateful to be here. Thank you for letting me